Okay, so here we go. Got my iPad in front of you, me, you, and we've got one already made. So I'm just going to create a new sheet. We're going to start from scratch. So we, just looking back on this one, source, gender, male and female. So in here, I'm going to type source, gender, male or female. And I had to combine 3 cells together, cell actions, and hang on, come up a bit. So actions, and merge those cells. And the other thing I did too was in cell, I centered that text because I want it to look nice. And I'm going to make this cell a bit smaller and this cell a bit smaller as well. Okay, so under source, we'll call it painting 1, painting 2. And I actually have a feeling that if I tap cell and autofill, it will change. Yep, it will. There we go. All right, so what we now want to do is give the option for male or female or choose. So under the format button, my mistake, I'm going to choose the format tab and come down to pop-up menu. Item 1 is going to say choose. I like to put a little dash in there. Okay, so part 2, we're going to say male. Item 3, we're going to say female. And we just check that the initial value is the first item, which is choose. We don't leave it blank because then we don't know what we're doing. So it's always good to leave it that way. So done. So now when I tap on that, I get the option of male and female. But again, we can fill that down. Double tap. Oops. Double tap. Cell. Autofill. Drag it down. Bingo. So now we've got options there. So we now need to tally up male and female. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So in here, we actually want a little piece of code. We're going to say equals if, and an open bracket. We're going to choose that cell, B2, equals, then some speech marks, which I'll do text. And that text I'm going to say male. Then we do a type comma and then a 1, which means make it a 1, then comma 0, which means if it's not the word male or if it's not anything else, put a 0, and we close the bracket and we tick it. So we'll just double check that. So let's tap on here. If I go male, that should become a 1. Bingo. We'll do exactly the same for female. Equals if, open bracket, B2, text, the text is female. Oops, there's a comma in there, which I don't want. What it does need to be is an equal sign. If B2 equals female, comma, 1 for yes, and then comma 0 for anything else, close it. So we'll double check that again. Let's make this female, and that should switch over. And of course, like all good cells, we can now autofill down and cell autofill down. And right, so that's looking pretty good to me. So now if I choose any of these, we should get the right answers, which is what we want. Okay, so the next step is we need to tally it all up. So we need to create a new little table. Okay, so the last part is we want to create the table and a graph to collate this information. So we are going to add a table. Now, in choosing the table, we need to make sure that we have one where the grey sections actually allow for plotting data as a series. So it's important we have one, especially because we're going to be tallying across, that we have grey on the left-hand side. So in here, I'm going to give this a title that says total male, and in the one underneath, total female. And of course I don't need all these extra cells, so I'm just going to drag that up and across. I'm going to drag that in as well, and I'm going to give this table a name which says gender total. All right, there we go. So those grey bits are very important. So now we want to tell it that we want to total up all these ones and zeros. So a little bit of a formula, equals sum, open bracket, and we'll grab all of the male. Now, you might like to put your iPad in portrait mode to do this. Could be a little bit easier, or pinch and zoom to see it all. It's a bit fiddly. But there we go, it's totaled it up as 3. And I can just check this because if I make this one a male, my 3 should now become 4. Yep, and that works fantastic. Total female, we do exactly the same thing. Equals sum, open bracket, and we total up all the female ones. Close the bracket, and done. There we go, fantastic. Now we want to graph it. So I'm going to actually not select the table. Even though I can select the table, I'm going to just not select the table and hit the plus button, come over to the graphing section, and I'm just going to choose a basic graph. And you'll notice that it says tap to add data. Well, that's exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to tap on total male and total female. And you'll notice that by doing that, it automatically works out that the rows are in series. And above my graph, I see total male and total female. So that sort of helps me a lot. Now, there could be a situation where your table might look not right. And I'll give you an example. If I tap back on edit references, I might have accidentally somehow selected something completely different that I don't want. You'll see how it's orange there. So I want to get rid of that. I can tap on the yellow dot or the orange dot, hit delete series. That will fix that. Or it might look a bit skewed, and that's because it mightn't be working with rows as a series. It might be thinking columns as a series. And I'll show you what that looks like. Little cog in the top right hand corner. You'll see plot rows as series or plot columns as series. If I flip it over to columns as series, you'll see that even though it does still tell me total male and total female, they are the same color. It depends on how you want to view your graph and how you want it to work for you. Bigger graphs are obviously going to be a lot more complex, and you might need to have it as rows as series. It's in however you choose to do it. But there we go, and I'm going to just grab that table. I'll move it over here. I might even make it just a bit smaller because it's probably just a bit big. I could even just grab it and pop it up there. And that sort of looks good. So now when I'm doing my research, I can just tap that and go male, and everything works as I need it to, which is exactly what I want it to do. Look at that. Perfect. All right, done.